Since the second school of thought, that is monetarist school of thought, that I have told you is a significant thing and that will be used in monetary policy also. So just let me quickly recapitulate what we have done about the monetarist school of thought. Yesterday I have told you that there are two causes for inflation to happen in an economy. Either it can be demand pull or it can be cost push. Demand pull or cost push. Now what is the meaning of demand pull? It means higher demand driving up the prices, or what is the meaning of cost push? Higher cost are driving up the prices. So in both the cases prices are increasing. So either because people are demanding more commodity of that same product, that's why price have increased, or the cost of producing that commodity in the economy has increased, so price has increased. Now monetarists tell one thing. Who are monetarists? We do not care. What they tell is something important. They tell whether the demand increase or whether the cost is increasing the prices. Underlying reason for both of this to happen is increase in money supply. Increase in money supply. So what they wanted to say is that they say that how does higher demand arise in the economy? When do you have the capacity to demand more? When you have more money in your pocket. If you do not have more money in your pocket, then you can never demand more. So who has given you this power to demand more? This extra money into your pocket is something which is forcing you to demand more. Because you have more money into your pocket, you can demand more. So that's why higher demand is because of increase in money supply. Government has increased the money supply in the economy. That's why that extra money went into the pocket of all the people and now they are demanding more goods. Okay. Second thing they told that, then we said, okay, demand pull, I understood that money supply causes demand pull. But what about cost push? How increase in money supply is causing cost push inflation? They will again tell that the reason is same. Because if the cost is increasing, then producer will charge more price. Now, how will this producer get this more price? Today, teaching you Indian economy, I can charge any amount. Instead of charging 60,000 for the comprehensive course, I can charge you 6 lakh. But will you pay? You will not pay. So until and unless you do not pay, how can I keep my price high? If tomorrow you decide, all of you, that we will not pay 60,000, we can only pay 40,000, then obviously institute will have to bring down the prices. Because if institute has to remain in the business, they cannot charge price which no one is paying, because then no one will come to attend the classes. So point is, these people are saying that how higher costs are driving up the prices. Higher cost will result in higher price only when someone will pay. If someone is not paying you for higher cost, your cost will automatically come down. So then I am saying that, so why price is increasing? Because you are saying those people who are paying these prices have extra money. If you do not have extra money, you will never pay me. So if I am increasing my price, if my cost has increased, and then I am increasing my price and you are paying me, means you have that extra money into your pocket. Because if there is no money in your pocket, you will never pay me extra. If you are paying me extra, it means you have extra. So if you have extra, then from where does this extra comes? This comes from money supply. So whether you demand more or whether I charge more, underlying reason for both the thing is that there is increase in money supply in the economy. So I understood one thing from yesterday's discussion, that increase in money supply will increase the prices. If the government increases money supply, price of the commodity will increase in the economy and inflation will happen. The story is not over here. I am just rubbing it because I have to write something else. Now, they told that increase in money supply increases prices or brings inflation. Now my question to them is, those people who have given us this thought, they have only given us this logic. Now my question to them is So tell me one thing, then economy will never increase money supply. If economy will or government will never increase money supply, there will be no inflation, no rise in prices, no growth, everything will remain stagnant. If you are earning 1 lakh today, you will keep on earning 1 lakh throughout your life. You will never grow, no one will produce more, your economy will be stagnant, everything will remain where it is, no growth will come if prices are not increasing. So then this is the counter argument I put forward, that you are saying money supply is increasing prices, so don't increase money supply. So what should I do? I should let my economy be stagnant, I should never grow. They will say no, there is a condition. So I ask, when increase in money supply creates inflation, they are telling that increase in money supply does not always increases price. There is a reason when it will increase. So now my question is when. See, first what they said, increase in money supply increases prices. So I told them, should I remain stagnant? They said no, always it will not happen. So my question is when it will happen. That's why I am questioning them when. So answer of when is that. So what is the question here? Question is, when will money supply increase prices? See, question is, when will money supply, when will increase in money supply, INC means increase, okay? When will increase in MS is money supply, will increase prices? This is the question that I put forward. Now what is their answer? If increase in money supply is greater, okay, if increase in money supply is greater than increase the growth of output, now what they are saying that if the money supply is increasing in the economy, it will not increase prices will still remain same. Increasing money supply is not bad. So I will ask, when does it create inflation? They will say, when increase in money supply is more than the growth of output or more than the increase in output, then it will create inflation. More than the increase, I have already done increase, so just a moment. Increase in the rate of output. So if your output is increasing by 10% and money supply is increasing by 10%, then there is no harm, because see what is happening. Your economy produced 100 commodity last year. This year it is producing 110 commodity. So if in order to buy 100 commodity you need 200 rupees, then what government should do? Government should increase the money supply to 220, so that this extra 20 rupees can help people to purchase this extra 10 commodity. See, here growth is 10%, so here also growth should be 10%. Point is, this economy was purchasing whatever this economy is producing. So is economy is producing 100 commodity, people are spending 200 rupees to buy this 100 commodity. Things are good. Now government need to see how much output has increased. Output has increased by 10%. This economy is producing 110. So if government will not increase the money supply, then this 10 commodity will remain unsold. Because with this 200 commodity, with this 200 rupees, people can buy only 100 commodity. Who will buy this 10 extra commodity? No one will buy. So I need to make sure that this 10 extra commodity that is produced in my economy is sold. How will I ensure that? I can ensure that by increasing the money supply. Because this 10 commodities has increased, so I will ask the producer, what is the price of your 10 commodity? They will say it is 2 rupees per unit. So I will print more 20 rupees and I will distribute among the people. So that this extra 20 rupees, see, difference of 200 and 220 is extra 20. So this 20 rupees will help people extra 10 commodity. So if money supply is increased by the same percentage with which my output is increasing, there is no reason why price in the economy should increase. But suppose if your commodity has increased from 100 to 110, but what I do is that I increase the price say by 33% to 300 rupees. Sorry, by 50% to 300 rupees. Then what will happen? 300 rupees will chase 110 commodity. You have 300 rupees chasing 110 commodity. So what will happen? Price of commodity will go up. 300 divided by 110. Now for one commodity you can pay this much money. Okay, so it will come around 2.77 something. So earlier you can pay only 2 rupees. If I am increasing the money supply by the rate of output, there will be no inflation. But if I am creating this extra income, if I am creating this extra money supply, then this difference will drive the price up. Now new price of the commodity will be 2.7, because people with this 300 rupees in their pocket will go and chase 110 commodities. As a result, what will happen? Everybody will be willing to pay more because they have more money. So what is happening? Price of per commodity will become 2.7. Now if you check this 2.7, you will find out it will come around 40%. 0.7 divided by 2 will be round about 40%. Okay. So point is, here extra money supply was 40%, because from 200 to 220 increment is 10%, but I have made it from 200 to 300. So I have increased money supply by extra 80 rupees. This extra 80 rupees is round about 40%. And similarly, because of this extra supply, price have increased up, and this is also 40%. So if anybody asks you what will be the level of inflation, if you have to predict the level of inflation in the economy, you should see, or one of the way of looking at it is, at what rate money supply is increasing, at what rate output is increasing. Now you are not an economist, so you do not need to do that, and you do not know how to do that. Point is, you should understand this as an economist, as a policy maker, that if output in this year has increased by 10%, then money supply should not be increased by more than 10%. So tomorrow when you will be sit as a policy maker, this will help you, or this will guide you to take decisions, that if output is increasing by 10%, let not bring out such a social scheme, Food Security Act, MNREGA, or any other such act by which we increase the income of the people. If you increase the income of the people to help poor, another consequence will be poor will be helped, but inflation for the whole economy will go up. So when you are sitting and you have to decide whether a scheme should be there or not, or how much extra money, if you become, once you join finance ministry at a higher stage of your career, and when you will sit there and then as a revenue secretary, then you need to know that if you have a prediction that output will increase by 6%, then never propagate to increase money supply by greater than 6%, because you know that greater than 6% of money supply will increase inflation. So your budget should be such that it should not increase money supply to an extent where output cannot support it, because that will drive the price higher. No one can stop it. It will happen in the economy. Is it clear? Is it clear to you? Okay. Now let's look at a term, business cycle, and then I will tell you about inflationary deflationary gap. First, let's look at what is business cycle. This is your business cycle, okay? Now what is business cycle? Business cycle simply means that your economy keeps on going through different stages. Your economy does not remain stagnant. Sometimes it is performing well, sometimes it is not performing well. Now there can be different reasons. We will come to the reason later. First understand this cycle. Your economy can be in depression. Now when your economy is in depression, what happens is that your economy is producing very low. There is, what happens in depression, low aggregate demand, low output, low income, low employment. Just imagine the situation of say 1947. After 1947, India was a very depressed economy. India's output was very low level of job, low income, everything was low in India. Now what happens is that new government that is formed by the Indians, they will take step to increase the production of the economy. They will take measure through which production can be increased. Now they will take the Indian economy through the path of recovery. When I am telling they will take through the path of recovery, what they will do, they will reduce the tax rate. If they will reduce the direct tax rate, then what will happen? Your disposable income will increase. If your disposable income will increase, you will like to demand more. When you will demand more, then sellers will produce more. When they will produce more, your output will increase. So here what government will do? Government will pursue expansionary fiscal policy, expansionary monetary policy. Don't go to this policy, just understand what they will do. They will give you tax cuts, okay, or tax breaks they will give. So suppose if you are a producer who want to produce anything, they will give you land free of cost. They will give you loan at a cheaper rate. They will reduce the tax rate. They will reduce excise duty. They will reduce income tax. So they will give you tax break. Other thing what they will do, they will reduce interest rate in the economy. Reduce interest rate. So point is, through, see, interest rate is example of monetary policy, tax break is example of fiscal policy. At this stage, don't ask me what is fiscal and monetary policy, because it is separately 8 to 10 hours of discussion alone on monetary policy and fiscal policy. So after inflation, we will do banking sector. After banking sector, we will go to monetary policy separately. So therefore, whole 8 hours, we will discuss what is monetary policy, what are the different aspects, what are the recent changes. We will discuss everything there. For the time being, just understand, governments want recovery. So for recovery, it will try to do two things. See, I am drawing it here. I have told you that in economy functions on two bases. There will be aggregate demand curve, okay, and there will be aggregate supply curve. Now, let's not draw this diagram. This is individual demand and supply. Your aggregate demand and supply curve will be like this. So what happens is that people are willing to supply something, people are demanding something. What will be the level of your output or what should be the level of your GDP depends upon this curve. That is, at which point supplier and consumer are meeting. You want me to teach 12 hours, I want to teach 8 hours. So we will never meet, because your demand is higher than what I can supply. We will only meet at a point where my supply and your demand meet. So similarly, at what level economy will produce also depend upon this, that where does their supply and demand curve meet. So if any government has to see this is the level where this economy should produce, if government thinks that this level should be increased, so what they will do, they will try to shift this curve upwards and they will try to shift this curve upwards. So now new level is this. So this is the extra GDP. So point is, if government want to increase the level of GDP in the economy, let me draw the diagram here. It may not be clearly visible. Just see, this is AS, this is AD. So this shows me that this is the level of GDP, because hey, this is the amount of goods that will be produced in my economy, because at this point supplier and consumer are meeting each other. Now I as a government wants that they should demand more and they should supply more. So what I will do, I will try to increase this one and I will try to increase this one. Now this is the new level. So here my GDP has increased. Earlier this was my output, now this will be my output. So my output has increased here, right? So if I want this, what I have to do? I will have to take steps so that aggregate demand in the economy increases. Means more people come forward and more people start demanding goods. On the same hand, I have to increase supply also. Supply in the sense I have to give tax breaks to producer also. Now there is this concept in economics. As a layman always thinks that anything that is pro-rich is anti-poor. Pro-rich in the sense, suppose if government is giving tax break to producer, so government intention is that production should increase. But what people can think, or what socialists used to think, or how socialists will project it, they will say that this government is pro-poor, pro-rich. Now you have to understand, in economics, every time pro-rich does not mean anti-poor. Pro-rich also means that it will help poor bring out from their poverty. Okay, so point is, if government have to increase the output in the economy, they have to rely on both the curves. They have to increase aggregate demand also, they have to increase aggregate supply also. Means if I am a supplier, then they have to take steps through which I can produce more. Instead of 8 hours, I can teach 10 hours. Instead of teaching 100 students, I can teach 10,000 students. And on the same hand, they have to increase your purchasing power also. So instead of just buying economy coaching, you can buy coaching for all the subjects. So both the things has to be taken care of. Increase supply curve, increase demand curve, so that your output will increase. Now with this mindset, after depression, what government will do? They will give tax break in case of, say, indirect taxes and direct taxes. Okay, they will give both kind of tax break. They will reduce interest rate and they will try to push the economy so that consumer consume more and supplier produce more. When they will take this kind of steps, then what will happen? Their economy will start recovering. But this is not an automatic button where there is a switch that you put on the switch, your economy starts recovering. You put off the switch, it becomes stagnant. There is no such push. So when they will be doing this, your economy will slowly recover. And after recovering, it will reach the stage of boom. It will stage the reach of boom, means it will be at its peak. That is, its maximum point has came. Now beyond this, because see, this is the level where the supplier and consumer are meeting. This is the point where supplier and consumer are meeting. But what if I told you that this is the level at which Indian economy can operate? You as a, suppose, think like this. You as a student may want me to teach 20 hours. I as a teacher may teach 20 hours. But what if I do not have electricity for 14 hours a day? I can then only teach for 10 hours. So maybe both of us are meeting at 20 hours, but because I do not have electricity for 14 hours a day, I can only teach for 10 hours. So I can be restricted by various constraints. Similarly, actual output in the economy does not depend upon what consumer is demanding and what supplier are producing. Actual output has a limitation, right? Now these people who are taking these steps, they are trying to push AD and AS. When they, because see, it is short-term measure. In giving tax break, giving a cheaper interest, it is a very short-term measure. If they have to increase actual output, then for that what they have to do? They have to make sure that I have electricity for 24 hours. They have to make land reforms. Point is, they have to change the structure. Structural reforms has to be taken. But structural reforms take a longer period of time. In the meantime, what will happen? If they will increase my capacity to produce, or capacity to consume, both of us will go higher. So from here we went to here, but actual output is still here. This is the actual output because I only have 10 hours of electricity. So no matter whether I can sell more, you can purchase more, but we are limited by the electricity. Neither you can come online without electricity, nor I can teach without electricity. So we are here. Now in the short run, what is happening? We went from here to here. Similarly, in the short run, because of this recovery steps, we shifted from depression to boom. Now boom is the maximum. We cannot move beyond this point without any structural reforms. So maybe government has shifted aggregate demand and aggregate supply in the hope of increasing GDP, but it has to be taken care of that beyond the point GDP cannot increase until and unless you take structural reforms. So structural reforms will take time. You cannot increase electricity supply overnight, right? You need 10-15 years and you need an energy policy to do that. Now at this boom, what will happen? Suppliers are willing to supply as much as they can. People who are demanding will try to demand as much as they can. but this is not a sustainable level. This will only be for a shorter period of time because there are structural constraints in the economy. Suppose what happens is that you have made your schedule that you will study for 20 hours. I have made my schedule that I will teach for 20 hours. But when we actually went to the coaching institute or when we came online, we saw we can do it for 10 hours. So what will happen? Our productivity will fall. Initially, I have increased the price. You have made payment for more price. But later our productivity will fall because we know we are restricted by 10 hours. Similarly, with the steps government takes, your economy can go into boom. But there is a limit to which it can stay in boom. Because if the government keep on supporting you and supplier, that is, if the government keep on supporting supplier and consumer for a longer period of time, that is not sustainable because it is just a short-term measure. In the long run, structural reforms has to be taken. But by the time government will take structural reforms, what will happen? This bubble which has been created, which has taken you to the boom, will burst. When this bubble will burst, then you will come to know that this economy cannot sustain at this level. You will slowly start reducing your production. Suppose in the anticipation of the fact that I will teach for 20 hours, I have increased my human resource, I have hired more teacher and I have expanded my business. Similarly, you have taken measure to give more money from your budget. But later what will happen when I will realize that I can teach only for 10 hours, I will start removing people from the job. I will start curtailing my production. Employment will be cut. Income will be cut. Production will be cut. So point is, everything that I achieved in boom, higher growth, higher income, higher output, higher jobs, everything will start falling. And when this is realized in the boom period, when this bubble bursts, then your economy starts slipping into recession. Now, when it will start slipping into recession, what will happen? Prices of commodity will start falling. Prices of commodity will start falling. Your output will start falling. Your employment will start falling. Right? Income will start falling. So your economy will slowly start getting into depression. And later a stage will come when your economy will again become depressed. Here again your output will be low, income will be low, production will be low, job creation will be low, everything will be low. Then again government will have to take measure. Another thing what happens is that if government realizes before this economy slips into depression, that economy can slip into depression or this bubble can burst, what they will do is they will tighten the monetary and fiscal policy. They will increase tax rate, they will increase interest rate. Now there is no automatic button, so they will increase all this tax rate, interest rate, and they will control economy so tightly that economy can slip into depression. Okay, so point is, when they started from depression, they do not know from where will boom come. Suddenly they realize that boom is more than what they expected, so they will start tightening measure. Now when they start tightening measure, they again do not know where to stop or where to keep the economy at boom. They will tighten the economy so badly that it will slip into depression. When it will slip into depression, then they will realize that okay, steps have to be taken for recovery. Again, when they will recover to such an extent that they do not know where to stop. They will again tighten and then they will slip into depression. So this is something that keeps on going. Economy or policy makers wanted to move your economy from depression to boom, but they do not know where to stop. So they again fall in depression. They again try, they again fall. So as a result, your economy goes on through this business cycle. From depression, it will move to boom and then it will move to depression again. Is it clear? Is this concept of business cycle clear? Is this concept of business cycle clear to you? Okay. See, please don't get into the measuring point of what? Measuring point of what? No, just hold on for a moment, I will tell you. First, my humble request, please don't miss classes. In case if you miss any class, please watch it before coming to next class, because believe me, at the end you will have problem, because your classes are designed in such a way that I am taking one topic after another only when I am sure that you have completed that base, or if you need some base in a particular topic. So if I am teaching business cycle today and not yesterday, was because yesterday you were not matured enough to understand business cycle, but today you are. So if you will skip topics, you will jump topics, you will always have some kind of confusion in your mind. That is the first thing. Now to answer your question, is inflation is the only measuring point? See, I have never used the word inflation. If you see, word I am using is that low aggregate demand, low output, low income, low employment. Inflation is just one of the way to measure depression and boom. But inflation is not the only criteria. You look at so many things. You look at what is the level of output, what is the level of employment, what is the level of income, what is the level of GDP. Okay, you measure it through that way. Is it clear? Inflation simply means continuous rise in prices. Please do one thing. Today is only the second class. I have started with inflation yesterday only. Even if you have other backlogs, at least go and watch inflation class today. Okay? Today's class you have attended. Make sure you take out 1 hour of time and watch. Yesterday it was 1.5 hour class. You watch that class. Because see, I do not have any problem if you skip topics. It is you who will not get confidence. Okay, let's move ahead. So these are the stages in business cycle: depression, recovery, boom, recession. Now let's look at another concept of inflationary gap and deflationary gap. That is, how can we see or how can we predict whether the price will increase or whether price will fall. Again, you will not become economist, so you do not have to do any calculation in exam or even in your job. But you need to have this idea where you can sit and judge, or you can understand that inflation is coming or deflation is coming. Right? Because you will be policy maker. So as a policy maker, you should have the idea to understand. You will be making policies, so your idea will guide you in making those policy. You are not an economist. You are not studying for Indian Economic Service. So don't think that you need detail or you need to go into calculation or you need some real life report example to correlate your teaching. Your teaching should form the basis of your understanding, so that you can understand as a layman, as a general person, that okay, this is what should happen. Or when you read any report, you can make out the conclusion. If they are giving any conclusion, then it is easy for you to understand, because economists will prepare the report, they will give you the report. Your job is not to prepare report, your job is to analyze or read those report. Now let's draw this graph again. First listen to me, let me explain. After that, I will again draw this graph for the second time. When I will draw it second time, then you can draw the graph. Right now, only focus should be on understanding. Do not focus on drawing at all. And the next thing, if it is possible, use 2-3 pens. I will be drawing 2-3 curve. If you can use 2-3 different color pens, then it will help you to differentiate in exam, right? Not in exam, when you will be revising your topic. So it will be better if you can use black, red, green, blue color pen. But right now, don't draw it. Just listen to me. Okay? Understanding is more important. Drawing, I will tell you step by step, then you can draw. First understand, in the initial class I have taught you already that how output is equal to income. Okay, how output is equal to income. If you go through the GDP chapter, you will see I have done this. Second, when I was teaching you GDP by expenditure method, I have told you C plus G plus I plus X minus M is your GDP by expenditure method. And this is also called aggregate demand. So that's why in the X axis I have written output slash income. In the Y axis I have written AD or expenditure. Don't write, don't draw. Just have this confidence that yes, I know. Now just listen to it like a story. Even if your income is zero, you do not have any money, you will still like to consume something, right? See, how much you want to consume will always depend upon your income. But even if your income is zero, you will like to consume something. So let's say this is the level or this is the amount of demand that you have when your income is zero. Because when we are standing on Y axis, on this line, then your X axis is zero. So even at zero level of income, you have some demand. So let's say this demand will keep on increasing like this. Okay. As your income is increasing, your demand is increasing. So this is AD, aggregate demand. Now supplier are also looking at the supply. They will make the expenditure, but they will only make the expenditure or they will only produce goods when they get some income, right? So what will happen is they will look at this demand curve. After looking at this demand curve, after looking at the output, they will see what income they will derive. So if they are getting zero income, see, if their income is zero, their output or their expenditure will also be zero. If their income is zero, they will not like to make any expenditure. So they are standing here. Now as their income will increase or as you increase expenditure, they will see more income for themselves. So what they will do is, with your AD curve, they will tell you how much they will supply. So let's say this is the way or this is the amount in which they will go. Okay. On the basis of what you are demanding, on the basis of what they will get from your expenditure, they will decide that okay, this is the level I will produce. On your expenditure, they will judge their income and then they will say that if you spend this much money, I will produce this much. If you spend this much, I will produce this much. If you spend this much, I will produce this much. If you spend this much, I will produce this much. So this is the way how they will move forward. You have started from here because even when you have no money, you have some demand. Right, and they do not care. If you can pay, then only they will produce. Otherwise, they will not produce. So this is the place where AD and AS is meeting. Now this is the place where your economy should produce. Okay, my word is your economy should produce at this level. It does not mean that your economy is producing at this level. Why I am saying your economy should produce at this level is that this is the level where aggregate supply and aggregate demand are meeting. So producer and consumer have agreed to meet at this point. But this does not mean that they will meet at this point. Now let's say this is the level at which your economy can produce. Let's say this is the level of full employment. This is the level of full employment. Okay, output at full employment. I am writing FE, you will write in full employment. Okay, just see output at full employment. Now what is happening is that, see, now forget this AD curve, just look at this AS and full employment. This is the level at which your economy can produce. Okay, this is the point at which your economy can produce. And this is the level at which supplier are ready to supply. This is the level at which your supplier are also ready to supply. They are not saying that they will not supply. They have agreed that okay, we are going to supply at this level, right? But does your aggregate demand comes here? No. Your aggregate demand is not coming here. Your aggregate demand is very high. This should be the level of demand in the economy. This should be the level of demand in the economy. But your aggregate demand is here. Your aggregate demand is here. This is what you cannot produce. You can produce only this much commodity, but you are demanding this much. So what is happening is there is excess demand. This economy can fulfill only this level of demand, but you have increased the demand. So at this level, what will happen? If your demand should be this, but if your demand is more, then this gap will represent inflationary gap because there is excess demand. So this gap will always bring inflation into your economy. Why it will bring inflation into your economy? It will bring inflation into your economy because your economy is demanding more than it can produce. Your supplier and full employment is meeting here. If you demand this much, then it is fine, but you are demanding here. This is something which is not attainable because supplier, how will supplier function here? They are willing to go here, but they are restricted by this line. They cannot go beyond this line because they have no means of production. They have no land, labor, capital, entrepreneur beyond this point. This is the level at which your economy will operate. So if you are demanding more than at which your economy can operate, you will increase the prices. You will always increase the prices. So when I say you, it means consumer will increase the prices. So at this stage, what should be the role of the government? Role of the government should be to bring this curve down to this line. Bring it to this line. Now when I say they need to bring it to this line, then what does it mean? It means they need to reduce aggregate demand. Now formula of aggregate demand was consumption plus government spending plus investment spending plus export minus import. So what government should do is government should try to reduce the government spending. No more free schemes, no more free food, or at least it is given only to the needy, not to everybody. For example, LPG subsidy, everybody will not get subsidy. If you are paying taxes, you have enough money to buy your LPG cylinder. Don't rely on the government. Okay, if anyone cannot buy, then only he should be supported. No, curtail investment spending. Don't let people increase the production, because even if they will try or they will invest in increasing production, output will not increase. Only this extra money will create extra demand. Because even if suppose I purchase 100 laptop, but if I do not get students, then what will happen? So stop me from purchasing 100 laptop, because that will not result in anything. I cannot teach from 100 laptop. Reduce export and increase import. So curtail expenditure. Now one of the way of curtailing is interest rate, that I will discuss in monetary policy. But for here, just understand, if your full output is below this level, then this shows inflationary gap, because you are demanding more than what your economy can produce, and inflation is bound to come into your economy. So at this stage, tight monetary policy and tight fiscal policy is the need of the day. Is it clear? Is it clear to you? Okay. Just give me a moment, please. Let me tell you about deflationary gap also, then you can draw the diagram. I will help you in drawing the diagram, don't worry about that. See, if you have this point, okay, one more thing, just right here, this point is also called output gap, okay, positive output gap. Now why it is called positive output gap? This point is called positive because your economy can sustain this. People are ready to buy, people are ready to sell here. Your economy can sustain this, but it is here. So this is a positive output gap, means you have the scope to go from here to here. So this is a positive output gap. If you can increase this output from here to here, then you can sustain. This shift from here to here is sustainable. Why it is sustainable? Because people are ready to pay and people are ready to buy. Okay, so producer is ready, consumer is ready, only economy is not ready. So take the structural reforms and make the economy ready so that it can make a shift. Okay, just this is the extra thing, positive output gap, because you have something to look forward. This is the potential at which your economy can perform. You are producing low because your economy your actual potential is less. So if you take reforms, you can make a shift from here to here. Just Now see, diagram will be same, only one difference is there. This time you are demanding and supply at a lower rate, okay? This is your AD. This is your AS. Now just look at this diagram. This is the point. This is the point where people are demanding, and this is the point where supplier are ready to supply. So this is the point where your supplier and consumer are meeting each other. But what if I say that your economy can produce at this level? It means at this stage your economy can sustain. This is the level where your economy can sustain, but it is operating at this level. Your aggregate demand and aggregate supply is at this level. So these suppliers have the capacity to supply this much commodity. Why they have the see, this curve, AS curve, only represent willingness. So consumer has the willingness in this curve, supplier has the willingness in this curve. Actual output will determine on this line, this straight line, because this is the maximum thing which your economy can produce. Now this point suggests that I am willing to teach 20 hours and I have electricity for 20 hours. But tell me, are you ready to study for 20 hours? No, you are not ready. You are here, you want only 10 hours of coaching. I am sitting here, economy is giving me facility to teach for 20 hours, but you are not ready to come and study for 20 hours. You are ready to study only for 10 hours. So point is here, my willingness is meeting with the economy's capacity to help me or produce output. But people do not demand that much product. You do not have demand at all. You do not want to study for 20 hours. You want to study only for 10 hours. Then what will happen in this situation? From 20 hours, I will have to curtail my production to 10 hours. If I would have been teaching for 20 hours, I would have increased my output. My income would have been more people would have been hired. Everything would have been high. But there is no demand at this level. So what will I do? I will have to operate here. So if the suppliers start producing at this level, that is, if suppliers start producing at the level of full employment, then there will be the deflation in the economy. Why deflation will come? Because see, you are not willing to study for 20 hours. So I will charge less price so that you come and study for 10 hours. Earlier my course was for 20 hours, but you will say that I will take course only for 10 hours. For extra 10 hours I will not pay. So ultimately I have to reduce the price and I will charge for 10 hours. So in this stage it is negative output gap. Why? Because my output will fall. I will curtail my output. I will curtail my income. Job in the whole economy will reduce. Income will reduce. Production will reduce. Output will reduce. Everything will reduce. So this shows you negative output gap. Negative output gap. So at this stage, what government has to do is that government has to make sure that this aggregate demand is shifted here. This AD curve has to go upward, because if this AD curve will not go upward, supplier will come down, and when supplier will come down, your economy will operate here. So see, though you have the potential to produce 20 hours, you are producing 10 hours. So your economy will be in depression. It will always remain in depression because you are selling yourself below your potential. Suppose you have the capacity to earn 1 lakh rupees, but you are earning 10,000 rupees. That is not good for you. And if it is not good for you, it is not good for the economy also. If the economy can produce 20 hours of coaching, economy should not produce 10 hours. So government need to take steps so that this demand is increased. Now when I am telling you that demand should be increased, then what government can do? In this stage, what government can do is again go back to this definition of C plus I plus G plus X minus N. Now what government can do here? Increase consumption, increase investment spending, increase government spending, increase export, reduce import. So government should come out with more scheme. Maybe government should tell you, you don't worry about coaching, I will pay for your coaching. You don't worry about food, I will give you food at subsidized rate. You don't worry about healthcare, I will give you healthcare facility. For investment spending, government can give cheaper loan, that rate of interest is low, so you go and produce more. Government will give me extra money to buy laptop and set up bigger institute. Government will want you to consume, they will reduce the interest rate. They do not want you to keep money in the bank. They will ask you, go and consume, go and buy as much as you want. This is the case that is prevailing in the developed economy today. They have higher potential, but they have lower demand. though they have not slipped into deflation, but there is always this risk. So that's why these countries are always afraid. So that's why they keep their interest rate very low. They keep interest rate low so that you don't keep your money in home, you don't keep your money in bank. They want you to consume as much as you want, because only when you consume their economy can grow. They have achieved higher potential, but because of fluctuation their demand in their economy can also fall, and they are afraid that they don't fall into this trap. To avoid this trap, they keep interest rate low. Is it clear what is deflationary gap? See, understand one concept and then other concept is completely opposite to the first one. Is it clear? Okay. See, no one in your mains also, neither you will be asked this definition and no one will ask you to draw this graph. But this concept is necessary, because if you are understanding inflation, you are reading inflation, in prelims they can ask you question, what is inflationary gap, or inflation, what is positive, instead of inflationary they can ask you what is positive output gap. But as a student, means as a person who is reading Indian economy, you should have this idea, because it will help you to not only understand editorial, it will also help you to write good answer. You need to use this kind of concept and word, when this kind of words when you are writing your answer in your essay paper or GS3, because nowadays it has been seen that one question from economy is also asked in your essay paper, and in essay paper 2 essays will be asked, 125 each. So if you get a grip on this kind of concept, you will see your editorial reading will be very easy. Any editorial by any economist, whether it is RBI governor, whether it is revenue secretary, whether it is chief economic advisor to PM, you will find their editorials to be very interesting. And once you develop interest in reading their editorials, then you will see your concept is building at a higher pace. And not only concept, it will help you in concept building. You will also write better answers, so your answer will be much better. So don't correlate it with just go to previous year and find that whether they have asked any question on inflationary or deflationary gap, and then you come tomorrow and tell me, why have you taught inflationary deflationary gap? In past 20 years, 30 years, no question has been asked. No question will be asked directly on this. But if there is any question related to inflation, any question related to growth, price level, this kind of concept will help you in writing better answer, and that is what will edge you out from other aspirants. Now just draw the diagram along with me, okay? See, how will you draw the diagram? Draw x-axis and y-axis. In x-axis write output / income. In y-axis write aggregate demand or expenditure. Now here somewhere give two different points, okay, or don't give two different points, just give one point, okay, and mark this point as A. Mark this point as A. Now here just write output at full employment. Output at full employment. Don't give two lines, only give one point in x-axis and write output at full employment. Now give this heading for this figure, just write down here inflationary gap. So the graph that we are drawing is called inflationary gap. Now how will you draw the graph? First give a point here. From this point, see, if you want, in the one of the page you can write that what is the step 1, draw x and y axis. What is the step 2? Mark output at full employment, okay, x and y axis. Second is output at full employment. Third is draw AD. So this is your AD. Fourth is draw AS, that is aggregate supply. Now mark this point. Just give a mark so that you understand that supplier and consumer are meeting at this point. Now fifth point is draw a line from output at full employment to AS. Okay, so from here you will draw a line to AS, this line. Now you see where is AS, it is here. Okay, so now what you will do, you will see, give this mark as point B, give this as C. Sorry. Extremely sorry. I have marked it on a demand curve. This will be point C. Give this at mark C. Now now when you are able to see how, what you can see, B is ahead of C, right? C is here, B is here. So then show that this gap, just give this point, this gap is positive output gap or inflationary gap. Why? Because there is excess demand. So demand should come here. Just draw a dotted line like this. Bring AD from here to here. Down arrow means AD should be brought down. Okay? AD steps should be taken to reduce aggregate demand, because this is my full employment. Full employment is at C. Okay? And just circle this gap. This gap means you have to come down. Why positive output gap? Because your economy has the potential to jump from here to here. You have this potential, okay? Potential to increase output. This is A. From A line goes to aggregate supply. Where this meet, it is called C. Why it is called C? Because this is the lever where supplier will produce. Because though they are willing to supply higher, they are restricted by this line. So they cannot move ahead in the line. They will have to restrict themselves here. Is it clear? Is it clear? Okay, I do not have enough time to draw deflationary gap today. What I will do is, you leave some space. I will draw deflationary gap tomorrow. If you want, on the basis of this diagram on a rough sheet, give it a try. Tomorrow in the class I will explain, not explain, I have already explained. I will draw the graph for deflationary gap also. Only difference is this output will shift here. So supplier and consumer will meet at a point below full employment. Try in a rough sheet. Even if you are not able to draw it correctly, I will draw it tomorrow. But as a homework, you should try. If you will try, then it will give you a better idea whether you have understood the concept or not. There is no harm even if you just look at this chart and then try. You can look at it step by step the way I have written here, and then you try. There is no harm in that. But do try it in a rough sheet. Is there any other doubt? Any other doubt? Anything you want me to repeat? Okay. Okay, then see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we will need 2 more hours to study inflation and then it will be over. So tomorrow I will be discussing indexes with you. Consumer price index, wholesale price index,